A return to Kalimdor after the saga. That's what might happen, guys. More revamps coming. Eastern Kingdom's getting all the love right now, especially the upper half of Eastern Kingdoms. We've seen, obviously, Silvermoon getting revamped, all of the troll areas, the Dead Scar healing, everything that's happening in the upper part of the Eastern Kingdoms right now. That's going to be an all-new zone for us, basically. But what about the other side of the world? What about the orcs on the other side and the trolls on the other side and everyone else? Well, it looks like Kalimdor is going to be getting its love after the World Soul Saga. Let's see what Doran has to say about this complete revamp of Kalimdor.
We just got a brand new round of interviews with Blizzard devs where they started foreshadowing Northrend already and how it has changed over the years.
Watched that.
How we can expect the Frozen Throne and the old areas to have changed significantly. However, they kind of dropped a little teaser in there as well as how, based on how good the reception was, they don't plan to stop on the return to the old world and the revamps. They mentioned Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms, zones like Elven Forest, Durotar, and Stone Tower Mountains. Realistically, finding a new isle hidden gets old after a while, and it does look like they might already have things planned even after the World Soul Saga is over.
Now, my thought about plans after the World Soul Saga has always been like, when I say the other side, I know I should just say the other part of Azeroth, right? That's what Kalimdor really is. The other side really refers to the other side of Azeroth, that is in the other side of the planet, right? And I've said it before that I thought, oh, maybe we're going to go to this other, other continent. A lot of people have brought this up, and that's where we're going to see kind of this Arathi Empire, right? That led over there with the Light Emperor and all this shit that we've seen from the Hallowfall people, or that we've heard about from the Hallowfall people. There's all that lore out there right now, unexplored, and probably going to be untouched for the rest of the World Soul Saga. So we'll see if that ends up being the thing, or they do what Doran's saying here, and we get a revamp of Kalimdor, and then we revisit all that shit, which I wouldn't be too opposed to. I'm excited for Midnight right now, what they did with Eastern Kingdoms. I'm sure they could do the same for Kalimdor.
The World Soul Saga is over. So what is everything?
The Earth is flat though, just like, yeah, right.
With the entire Void region, I tried using Polybuzz's new feature that is creating your own comics with just a few buttons. I mean, you can see for yourself how awesome this paladin defending against the Void is with literally a single sentence. Just enter your keywords, brief plot descriptions, and the software will generate your own map.
Oh wow, AI comics.
You can do this completely free 3 times a day. You can really build whatever you want, your own characters, you can combine established ones, and you can all put them together in a
the other side.
So make sure to click the link in the description below and check out Polybuzz's web platform. So yesterday Blizzard did a really cool sort of half-official video talking with a few developers about what is coming in Northrend and the lessons that were learned, as well as feedback from the saga so far, and especially Midnight, which was kind of revolutionary with the revamp of Kotalas. Very interestingly, it's still January and they're already hyping up Northrend, even though Midnight is not even out yet, which does indicate that the last Titan will probably be announced on this year's BlizzCon, and maybe...
Yeah, if I was a betting man, I would say, this is BlizzCon's going to get 2 big announcements for WoW. One of them actually huge. First off, for sure, Last Titan, definitely we're gonna get some kind of cinematic for it in BlizzCon. We're also probably gonna get like updates for the whatever's gonna happen in Midnight going forward. Not sure exactly what season we'd be in at that time, but you're gonna get the update of Midnight, right? This cinematic kind of announcement of what's happening in the Last Titan, hints there, and then you're probably getting the Classic Plus announcement. Let's be honest, the Classic Andes are waiting for it. Season of Discovery ended. All that shit was kind of an experiment for what Classic Plus could be. I think you're going to get your official Classic Plus announcement at BlizzCon, and people are going to lose their fucking minds. There's an entire part of the WoW community that cannot, they're frothing at the mouth for this thing to be announced. So it's going to be a pretty big BlizzCon in terms of WoW.
This year's BlizzCon, and maybe up for release sometime next year, which would honestly line up with the timeline they gave us for the World Soul Saga and how it is going to end by 2030. It's likely that Midnight will get 1 major patch this year, and that patch will wrap up what we know of the main story and how it's going to go, so that they can kind of spoil it with the Last Titan announcement. Now, what they hear in this video though is something that no one kind of saw coming, and it's not really even Northrend. It's the fact that they are indeed discussing revamping zones aside from the World Soul Saga in Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. In the video itself about Northrend, there isn't too much new stuff that we don't already know, just kind of their thoughts and experiences and like some challenges and what's going on with Midnight and what they plan to do. According to feedback. I mean, the players responded really well, especially to Quota Lost, even though they were worried about going to the old world in an expansion, as usually we're...
I've never been worried about going to the old world. I have a lot of, obviously, I have nostalgia for it. I mean, I played since Vanilla WoW, and I've always thought that the old world is the best crafted version of WoW, because I don't know, there was so much love and detail put into it all. There's so many good stories. Every corner of World of Warcraft, the old version of it, there's a story to be told, and there's a quest to be done. And there's really nice stuff going on.
Waste to this
Fabian, thank you for the sub on YouTube. Getting into all of that, I love to see it reworked. And the way they did Silvermoon, the way they kind of revamped the upper part of the Eastern Kingdoms, it looks like they didn't take it in a direction where like Cataclysm did, where you're just wrecking shit and changing it up completely, where it's almost unrecognizable, some of the zones. No, they didn't. It's more like an up-res and a rebuild, and it looks great. I'm very excited to go into it in the game. And to see it done on Kalimdor, seeing things like maybe Ungoro Crater, which looks absolutely... it's tough to look at. Seeing a zone like that get rebuilt in the new version of the game, I think that'd be really cool.
New zones or cultures.
I'm down
and
for
based
that
on
old
this
zone
feedback,
revamps.
They plan to expand. They did reveal some interesting things in regards to Northrend, like how iconic it is and how they have a huge burden of doing justice for the legacy of Wrath of the Lich King. They strongly hinted that there will be a return to the Frozen Throne, which really makes us guess how, and also Vermeer's Temple, although that is kind of completely expected with Dragonflight and the recent Dragon development. I mean,
when it comes to Northrend, somebody mentioned this when we were watching the Northrend interview, and they were like, what if they make the Frozen Throne the new hub? Like, what if they make Icecrown Citadel the new hub city? And I'm thinking, Tim, what are you talking about? We have Dalaran. And right when I thought that, I was like, wait a minute. We don't have Dalaran. So when we go back to Northrend, where is our hub city going? Dalaran's been turned to dust. What are we gonna? Are we rebuilding Dalaran? Maybe they just go that one. That's an easy route, right?
Let us lay waste
War Drum.
to this realm.
Thank you for the sub on YouTube. And Coilface, thank you for the 6 months, tier 1 sub. And thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot.
Always use
As I was saying,
Death Knight.
what's our city gonna be? Like Dalaran
Hello,
could be an
Sam.
easy one. Hello, an easy rebuild, or we go. Now I don't think they're gonna make Icecrown Citadel or Hub City in the Last Titan expansion, but we could certainly see some sort of rebuild of a zone or old city in the game that existed in Northrend that we didn't really get to kind of fully delve into and see that done. I would love to see like a Vrykul city or something like that. That would be freaking badass. But we'll see what they decide to do. But I forgot, yeah, what's our hub city going to be in Northrend? Can't be Dal this time.
something is obviously going to happen there, especially with the return
Ice Crown
of
handicap
Now,
accessible.
I recently released a video on the channel with the recent hints that we have, so what we can kind of expect from Northrend is like underground stuff, Titan stuff, as well as constant hints about the Scourge and their activity and how there is a part of Northrend we had never seen. And in this new video, they kind of started talking about some of these things officially, confirming some changes themselves, like how we are not just going back to Northrend like it was back in 2008. They kind of hated that we had such places on Azeroth that were there for you to just kind of finish the story and they're now stuck in time. They want to make Azeroth a more living world. So since it has been a lot of years, they're telling a completely different story now, and Northrend is going to be different with clearly transformed areas, as they say. Not just post-Wrath, but current events that have modified Northrend, very likely involving some possible Void Light involvement, definitely the Titans, and as they say, we will see familiar anchors and the like. However, they kind of in this video dropped a crazy teaser by the end, hinting that this revamp of Quotalas in Northrend is kind of just a start. It kind of inspired them, and they kind of talked about what they have in store for World of Warcraft in the future.
I didn't go to any of this in the what was it, the beta. Like, I had access, but I didn't do it. I wanted to see it all when it's finally rendered in the game, real time, like going to it for the first time. But just all these images, it looks so good, man. It does. I can't wait to hear the violin music again and everything. The Blood Elf aesthetic's really cool. I only play human, but I gotta admit, the Blood Elf aesthetic is nice. I'm excited to be in it.
Which could even be an answer for everyone wondering, like, what is going to be happening to WoW after the saga is complete. As they said, the return to the old world has been very well received. I mean, they're encouraged by it as well, and they're also experienced now too. They also talked about how thorough some revamps have to be, so that you're not in a new area, but just a few meters down, you're like back in 2004. They mentioned that we can continue to do things like this and go back and tell stories to all the these iconic areas even from Warcraft 3, how time has changed there, and there could of course be new stories to tell. First of all, they mentioned Elven Forest and Durotar, which obviously has been super relevant with player housing, but not completely revamped, of course, or changed in how they want to focus on it.
Yeah, I mean, really, with player housing, the new player housing neighborhoods, we've seen what like a revamped Elven Forest and Durotar would look like. Because right now, if you go into the game, those zones have not been rebuilt the way the neighborhood looks. The neighborhoods look much more they're high fidelity. They're built with a new style, new engine. So to see those rebuilt kind of the way that the neighborhoods were built, I would love that because I think these neighborhoods look freaking great.
Like this, but they also mentioned kind of more
What's up,
far-flung places like Stone Talon Mountains that have a whole lot of story to tell as well as a lot of history. As we know, they kind of already did something like this back with Cataclysm, so WoW really has two layers of stories, the classic one and the revamped ones, and the new Cataclysm zones. Obviously, some zones have completely changed, some not so much, but it is important to keep in mind that by the time the saga is over, it will be 2 decades since Cataclysm.
That's
and
crazy,
in-game with
man.
the time skip and such, it's like 30 years essentially.
Jeez.
At the least. That is a whole lot of time in game, and so many of these zones and stories have definitely changed. I mean, Stone Talon was kind of just a random zone they mentioned, but I'm sure it's just one of the zones that they're talking about with a lot of history that have kind of been forgotten.
Yeah, it would be nice if some of these revamped zones get uncataclysmed. That would be nice too. Right, Cataclysm came around and changed a lot of the old zones into the more fucked up versions that they currently are. So seeing the Cataclysm shit gone, because yeah, damn, it's been almost 2 decades since then. Yeah, getting some of that healing going. I mean, if you could heal the dead scar, anything's healable in WoW now.
Forgotten. I mean, we still got a lot of places on Azeroth completely stuck in time.
A new Goldshire, yeah, for Moonguard, right?
Being one of the most notable ones, with these crazy gnomes taking so long to get their capital back that really by this time, I mean, they might as well just build a new one. The way they kind of described it though is also weird. I mean, there have been some heavy indications that even in Midnight we are going to see revamps to more zones of the North and Eastern Kingdom.
Revamped Lordaeron. I'm such a simp for that idea.
Like the areas of former
Rebuild
Lordaeron,
it.
but these are certainly not going to be on the scale of Quotala, so it is possible, even in the saga, that more things like this could happen. For example, we know Silitus and that sword of Sargeras there is going to be relevant, so...
When are we doing this, man? This sword, like Blizzard keeps telling us, okay, now we're going to address the sword. All right, just kidding. We're actually going to address the sword now. Wait a minute. Okay, now we're going to do the sword. We still have not. It's crazy. Just the thought of this massive sword that's been put into our planet and this cinematic reveal of it in the like World Soul Saga cinematic, and we still have not fucking dealt with this thing. Yeah, what sword exactly?
Surrounding areas could become relevant as well, even in the last Titan. I mean, however,
it's just the tip,
to do more expansions in Kalimdor, for example, that could indicate a lot of things for the future of WoW. As in, something is probably going to happen there, and we're not just going to go to a new world or having to invade something. Well, they are setting up new worlds like Nashabor as well as Avaloran and the new Arathi Kingdoms.
Avaloran and the new Arathi Kingdoms, what I talked about earlier. That's the continent on the other side of the world.
There are only so many shrouded islands that can be discovered before it just kind of starts getting annoying. So like an expansion as a revamp into Kalimdor could turn out to be incredibly interesting, especially since they just revamped Eastern Kingdoms. And honestly, with this and the World Soul Saga, by the time they're done with it, I mean, most of the zones so far in World of Warcraft would be revamped. I think they're also realizing that marketing-wise, this actually works best, as right now, I mean, realistically, most of the players are actually older players. They have a ton of players playing the classic versions of the game, and a lot more...
Yeah, I'm 35. I'm balding. Yeah, when I started playing this game, I was 14. That's true. Why you got to call me out like that, though? I don't get it.
People would be inclined to see those areas on retail updated, as opposed to some brand new storyline with brand new characters that not many people would particularly care about. Overall, though, I do think it is actually an excellent direction for World of Warcraft to go into. I actually do think it is a better idea to refine what we already have instead of constantly adding more and like constantly expanding. That might even be better for new players as well. As remember when you're kind of interested in like this new game or a franchise and it has like a million different books, zones, additions, expansions, and you kind of feel like you can never get into it? WoW is already kind of like...
It's going back to the old zones is a great way to relearn the lore. That's why I've liked the lore walking quests a lot. I've thought those have been really good. And don't forget, we're getting that Arcantina thing in Midnight, where it's like this cantina inn, it's cross-faction, and there's NPCs in there weekly that are going to rotate through that'll give you quests to go back to old zones and go through new stories in those old zones. Like, it's a great way to learn the old shit and some new shit by going back to these zones. I think this would be good, like full revamps. I'm down for it.
Like that for brand new people, so
and it looks like Blizzard's already setting it up
revamp,
with the cantina.
Consolidate what we already have and bring it up to date, and also bring up some really interesting storylines. We all know the zones of Kalimdor in the Eastern Kingdoms, and have seen them a million times, and it will be fun to go back there and see how the world has progressed over the years. It was also a good point that really, with some zones that have so much lore and things that happened, it is definitely a bit sad that it just kind of got left in the past. Like, yeah, we did this, we did that, and completed this, but then they just kind of outlived their usefulness, and really, it does feel like that sometimes when you go back to old zones, and they're kind of just like these memories stuck 20 years
frozen
ago.
in time, old ass
Really
stories. Damn, imagine they remake the Caverns of Time. I remember flying into the Caverns of Time for the first time in the game, and seeing these like windows where you look out into space, right? But the cracks between the rocks as you're flying in. And I just thought this was so damn cool. Like today, this looks kind of rough to look at, but man, it was such a cool thing to see for the first time. Revamping the Caverns of Time would be cool.
Years ago, and it doesn't really feel like a living world, so it would be really interesting to see Blizzard start changing that. Thanks for watching. Check out the new specs that Blizzard is working on behind the scenes by clicking on the screen, and check out the brand new Witch lore channel that I just opened by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Yeah, overall, nice. Blizzard revamping Kalimdor, I don't think is that far-fetched after what they did with the Eastern Kingdoms at Midnight. Surely they're going to continue their philosophy of kind of rebuilding, revamping old world content, and I'm down for it. I am. As I said before, there's a lot of good stuff in those old zones. A lot of good reasons to go back, and a lot of good content that Blizzard could make for the future in those zones as well. Nice video overall from Doran.